Here we are talking energy, our best thing. Just looking at the energy now that we are holding, and this is something we can pretty much all of us recognize. If we go into a situation and something happens in that situation and we start feeling uneasy in our being, a sense of foreboding or a feeling that we're not welcome, we might feel a little insecure or anxious or fearful. We're just not quite happy with this feeling that we're getting. So when we go into that space and this feeling is awakened, what happens is that something in that space brought this memory, this long embedded memory. It brought it to the fore of our being, the front of our awareness. And so we started to feel some kind of uneasiness. But when we feel the uneasiness, what we all do, we go like, okay, it must be me. I must be awkward, or maybe I'm not dressed appropriately, or maybe it's something I said, or maybe they don't like me anymore. And what we do is we internalize this feeling again. So we've already had a little bit of a sense awaken in that moment. Then we in a moment or a situation with all the people around us, and then what we do is we blame and shame and dump on ourselves and betray ourselves, and we say, well, it must be because I am not good enough or they don't really like me. So now what we've done is we have a feeling that's awakened because there was a situation. And then what we did with that feeling, we said, well, now I must just suppress it and hide it and disguise it, and I can't feel it, so we push it down inside of us, and then we blame and shame ourselves. We put a lid on it. God forbid anyone sees it. We're vulnerable. Heaven forbid. We cannot have that. So here we've dumped all this energy into our body and into our being. What has happened when we recall that memory? When that comes up again, we then associate the place or the space or the people that reminded us of it. We associate that feeling with them, and we think it's them who must be blamed and shamed, or them who must be left out of our spaces, or ignored or shunned or shamed or rejected. So we use the scenery, which could be like a container. If you can imagine this play and performance like a stage, a container, and all this is going on this stage, and then we step onto that stage, we get a feeling, a sense that pretty much doesn't make any sense to us, but it's a sense no less. It's a sense of foreboding or a sense of sadness or a sense of something. And now what we do is we project that feeling that we've got coming up, we project it onto this set, this play, where all the structures are, the scenery. We project it onto the people and the experience that is happening in that place. And we say, it's because of this that I am not comfortable. It's because of that person that I cannot feel safe. And so what we do in that projection of our energy that is awakened in us, we've pushed it into a story. And the story is the play or the performance or the container that awakens it. Can you hear the word history? His story. This story, his story that we are creating, the story that we are creating in this moment, that tells us how we're feeling, becomes the history. It becomes the thing. Instead of feeling what it is that is coming up in us, and becoming aware of this feeling that we are having, even if it makes no sense, even if it doesn't belong to the space or time, even though, if we can become aware of the feelings that are coming up, then at least we can work with these feelings that are coming up. And that's a wonderful thing. If we could start to work with these feelings that are coming up without placing them in history, in places, without containing them and attaching them to others. Because when we attach them to places, spaces, or others, then we create another little dilemma. I can only feel safe if. I can only feel loved when. So everything must be perfect around us, for us, to know that we are safe and loved and held and adored and whatever else we would love to feel. We push all our energy out of us into reliance, dependence, and neediness. And this is a very hard place to be, because we've got no control on the scenery, the set, the production, and all the people that are being pulled on to play a role. We've got absolutely no control of that. And if we are depending on our sense of well-being because of these people and the way that it's all set up, then we are constantly setting ourselves up for a great disaster. So how are we going to manage this? How are we going to have the sense of these feelings coming up? And how are we going to integrate ourselves into the world around us? So first, let's just understand these emotions that are coming up, the sense that makes no sense. We all have this. We all have these senses of security or foreboding or trepidation or anxiety or depression. And people around us will tell us, well, stop being ridiculous, stop being so dramatic, it's not so bad, why are you always making such a big thing of it? When this little story is happening and people are giving us that kind of reflection, what they're saying is that this that you are feeling doesn't match the space that you're in. And we go in our head, of course it does, because I'm feeling depressed. So it must therefore be the space that I'm in. It's depressing. Or these people need to behave in a different way so that I can feel more lighthearted. Because we're not willing to own the fact that we have embedded emotions, symbols, connections, signals that are locked inside of our system. We have a genetic imprint that has been passed on by our ancestors, and equally we have an energetic imprint. All their feelings, all their foreboding, all their sadness, trepidation, fear, and horror. It is all part of our baggage, our inner emotional baggage. And when it comes up and it wants to show and reveal itself, what we do is we put a lid on it and we suppress it. Or we shame and blame the situation around us and the people around us for not helping us to feel safe and not making us feel wanted or worthy. We put it outside of us because we're not willing to see this thing that is inside of us. If in this moment we could agree that we are all carrying these emotional embedded codes, these immense embedded codes of every kind of sadness and pain and suffering of our human experience. And the reason we are having all of these and holding all of these still is because we're still playing in the game of survival. If we get a feeling, a sense of foreboding, it's just saying to us, be careful, watch out, make sure you're going to survive, make sure you're going to be all right. Quickly hide away or quickly run for your life. It's just the idea that we all are here still playing in the game of survival that makes all these things come up again and again and again, because they awaken the signal of survival, and they are all part of the signal of survival. And we are here at the place in humanity, in a human experience, where we have to choose. Are we going to take this journey, this game that we're playing of surviving at any and every cost? Are we going to continue to do it until we run out of all of us, and we run out of our courage, and we feel completely disconnected? Are we just going to do this trajectory? Or could we imagine that we are at a point now where our hearts are calling for something else? We're deeply longing for this other thing. We yearn for peace and kindness and love and compassion, integrity, accountability. We yearn for this. Someone who's being tortured will call for mercy, kindness, compassion. There is a something in us, a knowing in us that knows what we are to seek. What is that? It's the awakening of this other trajectory of thriving, because when we choose that, we're going to be thriving. When we all decide to take a leap off of this line and take a whole nother pathway, this is when everything starts to change. We don't need these codes of survival and horror and terror. We don't need these signals of hyper alert and vigilance. because we're not playing in survival. We're playing in thriving. Thriving doesn't need them. But while we agree to stay locked into the idea of surviving, we are going to be awakening these codes. So right now, we're at a pivot point. We're at a point where these two experiences are really colliding and connecting. So it's coming in as massive contrast. This and that, this and that, this and that. You can see this in everything around us, this incredible duality that's going on. The shifting, rapid shifting between two spaces. Because we are being asked to choose. Choose, 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 and choose well. Choose what you will have. Choose what you will like to play in now. Choose the scenario that you would like to enjoy your life in now. To take this next step, our greatest privilege now is to honor the pathway of the old, the ancients, who brought us to this point because they were able to hold on to the sense of vigilance and terror and watchfulness. Because they held on to that, because they passed it on as a code, and because we have it inside of us, we are still surviving as a species. But we don't need it anymore. And when we decide that we don't need it anymore, oh my gosh, that's going to be the moment that the switch happens. When we decide that we don't need to play inside of low frequencies to survive, then we can start to think about showing up in the world in a whole different way. And when we do decide this, we don't need to blame and shame the situation, the people around us, for giving us that reflection, for awakening these codes in us. So next time you go into a space and there's a lot of energy going on, a lot of people and a lot of performing going on, feel that you can go into that experience and be in that experience with whatever is coming up in you, and you can acknowledge it and honor it and trust it without putting a lid on it, without containing it, without condemning, blaming and shaming you, and without condemning those around you for not making you feel better. Imagine going into these massive experiences which we're all having in every minute of the day because we're here with others and we're all colliding and crashing into each other. And we go into these places, and instead of being angry because this feeling of rage is awakening in us, we just stop. Don't put it into a container. Don't put it into that scenery and that setting and those people and that experience. Don't give it to them. Hold it in you. There's rage in me. There's something in me that's saying, I don't like this, not one bit. And then ask your being, well, what is it that you don't like? And then ask your being, what is it that you seek? What do you truly want then? What is it that you want? If you don't like this, you already know what it is you do want. Ask that. Ask your being, what does it seek? What does it want? And you turn the switch. You turn this little dial and change the program in you, because you have that potential right there. The 2 points, the contrast, reveals the truth. The 2 points, these 2 lines and pathways, come to a center gathering point, a pivotal point. We are at the pivotal point. And it is here that we are being asked to choose. What would you choose? And the moment we recognize that emotion is a code, a signal that's saying, oh, you better choose quickly. Because what you choose, that's what we're going to create in the very next moment. But if you can be with that feeling without shaming and blaming you, without hating and despising others because you have this feeling, then you are starting to work like a beautiful divine energy being that you truly are. I would love to invite you to begin to release these massive impacting energy codes, symbols, connections, and signals that we are holding in our being. There are so many wonderful ways and so many beautiful energy workers, light workers who are working with this now. Find a way that connects with you, that is your connection to the integrity of who you are. And allow yourself to do your own work. No one can heal you. You are the healer of you, because you're the only one who can feel what you are feeling. And you are the only one who can heal what you are feeling. If you can feel it, you can heal it. and you are the healer. Don't give your power away to anybody else and ask them to fix you. That's just absolute nonsense. No one can. Only you know where that button is. Only you can turn that switch, and only you can choose. By coming to that place of recognition of what it is that we are feeling, we are not less because of it. We are here because of it. And we can go even further now because of that. We can go so much further because our heart is calling us towards that. Please remember that all the feelings that you have are to be honored and known by you. You are not a shameful person for feeling the way you do feel and experiencing what you have experienced. The experience has given you the opportunity to really know it from right within, being in the trenches with that experience, and to know it so deeply, so clearly. The deeper and the clearer we are, the deeper we can heal these massive codes and cords of pain. They're literally strangling, wrapping around us and strangling us. It truly is time for us to take another look at what it is that we are holding embedded in us, and look at ourselves as being the powerful healers of our own energy frequencies, because we have the right and the choice right here, and our heart is calling for it. It's right here, and so are you, at the perfect time to create a massive switch from our surviving to thriving as a species. This is the energy imprint. This is the legacy that we are going to leave for those ancestors behind, but also for those to come. Eons of time down the line, we will be the ones who attribute this switch of energy. It will be attributed to this generation. This is the generation, this is the time, and it is now. So embrace you with whatever it is that's rocking and rolling inside of you, whatever it is causing pain. Just embrace you, because you are the healer, because you can feel that. You're not broken, you are just open. Now you are open. So much love, feel that, enjoy the connection to it. I have a guided connection that might be helpful to you. It's called A Whole and a New Way. And you will find it under my name on Insight Timer. A Whole and a New Way. See if you can find that, and see if you can connect into it, and bring this energy back into your center and claim your life once again. Be the divine being that you were designed to be. So much love to you, my treasures. Thank you for you.
From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be